Hello, wonderful. This is Sarah, and I'm here with Michelle, Arpin, Begina, and we are talking Money. Hey, Michelle, how are you?
I'm great. So good to be here with you, Sarah.
Oh, so excited. So many of my listeners and myself have had, almost toxic relationships with money at some point in their lives. And now you're the founder and gateway of Michelle AB, which sounds so cool. There's so many good things we can talk about here, but a lifestyle platform to educate women, to give them tools to take insured action. And everyone who's listening is like, oh, Sarah loves the A word. Love insured action around their money, right?
You got it.
So tell us about, because you chose founder and gateway really specifically. So why did you choose founder and gateway rather than the CEO or, some of the terms we're used to hearing?
Yeah. So founder probably speaks for itself, right? Founder of the company. What's a little more extra special sauce is when I really thought about, well, what am I? What will I always be? Is a gateway. And what I mean by that is that everything in our world has changed where the proliferation of information has just democratized our ability to access information that we need. So I, as a gateway, right, as an advisor, as a coach to people, I don't have any more information than anybody else can't get on their own. What I have, though, is the ability to hold space. There's like two levels here. Hold space for that person so that they can access that inspiration and motivation that is within them. So I act as a gateway for them to access themselves. And once I have all of that valuable information that they're going to share with me, it's almost like they shared the owner's manual of them. I then can take specialized knowledge that I have and skillfully apply it, where they might not have that kind of experience or really that in-depth knowledge, technical knowledge about something. So it's a two-way kind of a relationship, being a gateway.
I think about that so much in my own coaching, right? So to break it down, like there's I'm thinking like there's two pots, right? And there's like a bridge in between, or, and so you have all this information and life experience, and they have all this information, life experience, but you're good at streamlining and making sure they're getting the information they need at that point, at the level they are. Is that?
Yes. And the gateway process is one of curiosity, where it becomes a discovery process as much for me as for the person who I am talking with and listening to. Because I'm the queen of asking questions that people say, I've never thought about that before, especially when it comes to money, because we don't often have the opportunities to talk on a deep level about our money. We're so surface about it,
And why do you think that is? Just because it's there's so much shame associated with it, especially if you grew up without money, or feel too big for your britches, or too good after, certain things?
Yes.
I ask you questions too.
It's such a complicated question, really. And I don't know that there's any one answer, but it really is, it's societal, it's biological, it's therapeutic, right? It's all of our mindset, it's our conditioning, right? It's a whole lot that gets thrown into the kitchen sink about what ultimately creates our relationship with money to begin with. And one person may have shame around money and one may not. One may have drama around money, one might have trauma around money. It's not any different than, a couple of kids were being raised in the same household with the same parents, and, they look alike, but they couldn't be more different. Well, why is that? And a lot of it is we experience, like everything in life, we experience so many different things as we're growing up that we don't have the cognitive abilities to really process. So we feel what we feel, we sense something's going on. We don't really understand what it is, but we make meaning of it. And we then carry that meaning into our lives as adults without ever questioning whether or not the meaning we made is the truth. So
Well, can we clarify what that means for people? So such as, I don't have money, I'm not worthy, or I have money, I'm bad. It's, I don't have money and I'm good because then I am able to make the other things a priority, and people who make money a priority, they're bad. Like, is that kind of some of the language you're talking about? Okay.
You're so smart to get into that. And every example that you just gave is really a script, which is money avoidance. And the subconscious belief is money is bad. And it's everything that you just said. So if you come into money, I have to get rid of it. I might donate it. I might enable my adult children. But if I have it, I'm bad. Right. Or there's maybe
hold on, did you just say enable adult children with it? Thank you. We just came back to that. Thank you. Everybody hear her? Okay, now we can move on. Thank you.
Yeah, is that a little something you've been talking about with your audience?
Of course, right? Like, there's so much guilt, especially after a toxic relationship. And then it's like, oh, I feel so bad. So my job is to like make it up to my kids through money.
Yes.
Or it becomes some game with money. So I was like, hold up, she went there. So I had to stop and pause.
So let me make one better, because this was somebody that I worked with. This was a really interesting story that divorced mom, CEO of a company, 3 kids, really rough divorce, and not much financial security from the dad, all coming from the mom. And mom, my client, what she wanted most for her children was to create financial security for them. And we talked through basically 4 main drivers around money, which are security, freedom, love, or power. And when I asked her, clearly she was driven for creating security for her children. When I asked her, if you think about your 3 children and those 4 words, what are they driven by? And she basically said freedom and love, not security and not power. And all of a sudden she said, oh my God, I've been trying to create something for them that they don't necessarily want for themselves. And it's so interesting. She just got on the path of creating this financial security for her children. She actually never defined what that would be or look like once she reached the destination.
That is a huge point, right? Because people say, oh, I want to be happy. I want financial freedom for my kids. I want to feel healthy. I want to whatever. And it's like, I call it abstract concept. It's a very abstract concept because it's like, well, or being good enough. Well, good enough for what? Right? And when you can start to clarify, this is what the finish line looks like.
Yeah, you need to know when you've arrived.
Yes,
so
yes.
What happened with her, which was so amazing, was she said, let me get this straight. I've been striving for something that my children may or may not necessarily even have wanted, number one. And I've already reached that. And I'm still working so hard to create that for them. And I've already done it. Boom, like she let go of all the guilt and shifted. And she said, okay, now my business and my ventures and what I want in life it's now about me and creating freedom that I want. And boom, like she was free to just take that different road. And it was amazing for her to realize those things.
I love power, love, security, freedom. And that's absolutely been in my own life, with those things. It shifted at different points. Like, okay, I need security, or I need to feel powerful, right? And feel that. And I don't know, to me, that's still somewhat in my own life linked to security, because it's like, I need to know I can take care of what I need to be able to take care of. That feels powerful to me. I know I can take care of the things I need to take care of.
Yes. Yes. And it's a very female thing, if I might.
You may go there. Yeah.
Most women are built on, I want security, and then I'm going to build from there. And it's neither here nor there. It just seems to be kind of in the water for us. And that's totally fine, as long as we can maybe use that as a foundation and then really build. And just to go back to something else that you said about, really defining your goals and how you want to feel when you get there, right? The state that we want.
Yes. Whoa, hold on, slow down. because what you're saying is like, oh, yes, okay, I really want to talk about this. So she's talking about thinking about this state of being. Okay, so exactly how, what does security feel like? What does power feel like? How will I know I'm there? Being very conscious about what feelings are going to accompany that success. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. I just want to clarify in case someone wasn't sure what state of being meant. Yeah.
So I think there's a little trick that the world plays on us, that we don't just arrive to a state of being and stay there. Mm-hmm. We need to proactively maintain that state of being, right? Mm-hmm. So we might feel powerful in a moment. We don't feel it all the time. And there's also a little trick about money, which always surprises people, that most rich people, however they define rich, do not feel wealthy and secure. Interesting.
Oh, I agree completely. Yes.
So there's a concept called emotional forecasting, which is humans we are not very good at.
Okay. Explain what that means to people. Uh-huh.
So here we are, our present selves, and we've got some goal on the horizon for our future self. And we think she will feel a certain way when we reach X, Y, Z. Mm-hmm. Well, in the process, right, we all know success is a journey. Half the fun is who you become in achieving that milestone, that success. And the other half is actually experiencing what it's like to achieve that. What happens is we start whatever goal that we have with who we are, who we're being now. And we don't upgrade how we think we want to feel in the future as we are evolving and becoming more and more of ourselves. Mm-hmm. And we need to do that so that we don't end up at a destination and look around and do the proverbial, is this all there is?
So yeah,
as good as I thought it was going to, or this is different than I thought. We just need to keep upgrading that state of feeling or that state of being that we ultimately would like to be attached to what it is that we would like to achieve financially.
So I'll be happy when I hit six figures. So that's an easy example. I'll be happy when I hit six figures. Okay. Yeah. But then you hit six figures. That's emotional forecasting. I'll be happy when. Okay. Yeah. Then you hit the six figures and it's like, oh, I thought I'd be happier.
Yeah.
What now? Right. And so that's what you're saying. Even people with wealth experience that. It's like, and Tony Robbins, he said something, I think it was him. He said, happiness is in the achieving.
I'm sorry, happiness is what?
Happiness is in the achieving. It's like in the act of achieving, like, oh, I'm working towards my goal. And and in my own life. Right. And I'm glad we had this conversation, because when my book launches and my summit launches and all these things like collide here, in February, probably, very soon. Yeah, exactly. But I know myself, and I know I'll be very sad when it's all over. No matter if Oprah herself says everyone on the entire planet has to read this book and leaves lipstick marks all over it, I know I will be disappointed because
so carried away. Really?
Yeah. No, just kidding. But I know myself in a way, like that is something I really have to guard against. And I tend to, the way I've coped with that is when it gets really close, I minimize that goal and then like find a new one. And it's like, okay, well, it's fine. Even if it's successful, that's not one of my healthier moments.
You're on. This is what we humans do to ourselves, right? Whether it's right, and everything, money just illuminates our life, and it's an enabler, right? So it's attached to everything that we do. So this, your book launch and reaching that milestone, and congratulations again, it's an amazing success. We get to, not only do we not necessarily, it doesn't feel as great as we thought that it was going to. Mm-hmm. We then also are like, it's sort of like that scene from Vacation where they get to the Grand Canyon. And
Christmas Vacation.
Puts his arm around his wife, and then he stands there for like 3 seconds. Then he's like, "Let's go."
Yep.
That's what happens to us, is we stand at the Grand Canyon, we take in the sight for about 3 seconons exactly, and then we're like, okay, what's next?
Yeah.
It's called the hedonic treadmill. And it's it's what we do psychologically. Now, the good news is that it keeps us in forward motion of always growing, right?
It's it's in there because it pushes like society forward, right? But I always say our brains are designed to keep us safe and moving forward, not to make us happy.
That's right.
Right? Because it doesn't make you happy when you spend months and it's like, oh, and then it's like, well, okay, what am I going to do now?
So the tricks, and I'm sure you talk about this with the audience. So even happy, like you've got to really dissect that.
Yeah.
Right. And it's, I think happiness is probably pretty related to a deep sense of satisfaction. Right. So really digging into those emotional words, right? The farther you dig into the emotional words, the clearer you're going to get, the more you're going to be able to experience and feel what you actually really do want to feel. And the second is always celebrating. Because it's a force mechanism to stop and savor. Because otherwise we're just like, what's next?
Oh, I'm the worst. I'm the world's worst. Every coach and stuff I've had, I think we're very similar. And every coach and stuff I've had, they're like, hold up. What have you done the last month? And you're just like skipping over it like, well, and now I need to.
I have a little cure for that. Do you want to hear?
I would love to. Every coach I've ever had would be happy. Any cure you can give me, because that's like.
So this started a couple of years ago where you ever receive family newsletters like around the time? Okay. So I have a cousin who sends a newsletter and she does it in bullet point format, which I loved. And I don't know what, it just triggered me. And I keep a file that as I accomplish something, a nice compliment, an event I attended. I mean, I haven't attended events in a long time now because of COVID. But what I do basically is throw Post-it notes or print out the email or put some other kind of marker, and I just keep throwing it into my folder.
Your celebrate pile.
And every December, as I'm writing my business plan for the following year, I write a letter to myself. And what I do is I pull that folder out and I write a bullet pointed list of every single thing I've accomplished. Why I like doing that is because if I'm doing this on December 15th and you and I were talking and you said, what did you accomplish last year? I'd be like, it's so nebulous. Like, oh, I don't really know.
Yeah.
Well, when I whip that folder out, I then can really take credit and take stock of it and say, whoa, because I'm always in motion like you are and always creating.
Yes.
And it's just really good once in a while, just stop and really take a look, or even if you keep a bullet point journal, of every day, like with Michelle AB, I actually keep a bullet point journal where every single day, I don't write big notes, but I actually write down the actions of the things that I have been working on every single day. And I've used it just to keep track of my journey as I build this company.
I love it. Well, and so much of building a company and that healthy relationship with us is having that healthy relationship with money, right? And rather than a toxic relationship with money. So when you think about those scripts, such as, oh no, I've got money, I have to give it away, or I'll never have money, I'm scared of money. How do people start working through some of those scripts to get to that healthy place of being able to write in their bullet points and celebrate, yay, I made however much money this month and I'm fine with it. I'm great with it. It's wonderful.
Yep. I'm so glad you asked that question. So I call it self-serve financial therapy, in that we don't need to dig deep into our subconscious to really raise our awareness on our money, right? And probably why
that's— stop her right there. Did you hear at the beginning when she said taking tools to take insured action? Okay, because this is something really big I'm about. Like, okay, so you just heard her say, you don't have to like go super deep into the subconscious and everything that's wrong with you and everything that's your whole life. It's about learning tools to take action, right?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
And that's why we're like, you're going to be my new bestie, right? Because some people are not, especially in my space, are not having that conversation. It's like, let's process for 30 years about your 5th grade teacher not liking you. And I'm like, how do you accomplish anything?
I'm a fan of therapy as big as anybody else. Therapy has changed my life. And there are points and times to use it, right? So I think if you are doing your own self work and there's something that really has you stuck and you just simply cannot move through, then there's something else that's needed, right? It might be therapy, might be a coach, who knows, but there's another avenue probably to get that opening. What I think is really interesting about discovering your own beliefs about money is it really centers around three main things. So why don't I tell you about what's been scientifically proven as some of the scripts that are out there.
Love it. Yes.
Okay, so the first one is money avoidance, which we've talked about, which that subconscious belief is money is bad. So you might have heard, rich people are bad or any, lots of derogatory things around people with money. The second script is money worship, which means more money will fix all my problems.
Okay.
I fall into this camp, and with good reason, which maybe we'll get into. One of the symptoms of money worship is, and I don't care for the word worship because that denotes a religious thing to me. Mm-hmm. It just means that it's sort of like, when I weigh 120 pounds, then everything will be perfect, right? It's sort of like that is how we think about it. But the belief that more money will fix all of our problems, each one of the scripts I'm going to describe can lean you toward different unhealthy propensities. For example, workaholism, when you have a money worship script. That's me. I work way too much. I work too hard. That's who I am. Money status is my net worth, is my self-worth. Out of all the scripts, it's probably the easiest one to pick up on because it's a visual script, right? You might make judgments of someone who has the latest gadget, has the latest car, right? They usually wear that, but just know underneath what they believe is their self-worth is their net worth. And then money vigilance, which is money is private, are the four main scripts. So, okay, how do you discover more about this for yourself? A couple of things. One, I always go back to, what was your first memory with money? It's usually pretty telling.
I saved all my money when I was little. Like I would ask for money. Like even when I remember I got gumballs as a Christmas present and I bagged them up and sold them at school the next day. And then saved all my money. Like, so I've always been like, I don't spend money. Like I spend it on coaching now and investing in myself. But that's definitely been like the biggest purchases, it's like money is to be hoarded away like a little tiny squirrel.
Is that still carrying through for you now?
No. But it would depend on what if you were like, hey, do you want to buy a $10,000 coaching program? I'd be like, yes, I would love to buy a $10,000 coaching program. If it's like, do you want to buy a $10,000 object or $10,000? I did buy myself a new car during COVID, but most things it would be like, I would not want to just spend money on things. It's things. Yeah. I don't spend money on things. If I can spend money on self-improvement, that is valuable. Spending money on things is like,
Yep. Okay. So it's really tracing the roots of your story and starting with your first memory of money, really dissecting it and just asking yourself, how old were you? What was the situation? What made you think of, like in your particular idea, like what made you think of packaging up these gumballs and selling them the next day, right? And when you look back, best you can, what do you think you made all of that mean to yourself when you were 4, 5, 6, 7 years old, however old you were, okay? And think of the stories that have happened. Now, there's a difference between a story and a flashpoint. A flashpoint is also a story, but flashpoints are emotionally charged events that happened to us while we were growing up. And I can share a couple of mine, but I'm just warning your audience, I will throw my parents under the bus if I share these stories, and the hair on the back of their head may stand up on end. Anyway, we have flashpoints. So we had big moments that left a mark, an emotional mark for us. The third thing is the money script. So there is actually a tool out there called a money scripts assessment. And like some of the things that you just said, and I don't know where you fall in your beliefs, but I have to save for a rainy day. Money is meant to be saved, not spent. Those are some underlying beliefs that could be money vigilant. I
or
don't know.
Given away, right? Yeah. So in my context, it was very much like if my senior year of high school, instead of going like to the beach drinking with my friends, I went to a Salvation Army orphanage, and it worked in the orphanage, right? So it was like, oh, if money is to be channeled to give to people who have less than me, right? But then subconsciously, though, what I'm saying is they're important and I'm not, right? Because I need, who's taking care of me, and not in a selfish way, but just in a like normal human, healthy functioning way.
Yeah. I mean, there is the old oxygen mask, right?
Yes.
A lot of us are taught, to give. And, you virtually can give more when you are taken care of, when you're in a better space.
So a business coach I had, he said, the best way to help poor people is not to be one.
That's right.
And I was like, oh, that's so nice to know that, like, it is exactly right. That was probably one of the biggest lightning bolts moment for me in money is, the bigger legacy, financial legacy I create, the more good I can do.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yep. And that's really the transcending part. So what I am up to is helping people transcend money beliefs. And you're familiar with the Maslow hierarchy of needs?
Yeah. You want to explain that a bit? So it's like your basic level needs, safety, security at the bottom. And yes, I'm a life coach, right? I'm at the top of that pyramid dancing on the daily, but it's inspiration, food, shelter, all those base needs are met. And then you start getting into internal growth, maybe. Yes. The easiest way to say it if you're not looking at the pyramid.
Yeah, where you're really, the top of the pyramid is realizing your potential. And one of the things that I learned in the last couple of years is Maslow, before he died, amended his hierarchy of needs.
Ooh, do tell.
And he never actually created the pyramid either.
Okay.
Somebody else put it in that, but we all talk about the pyramid. So the top of the pyramid, as we basically know it, is self-actualization, which is reaching our full potential. What he amended it to and realized was that he was intermingling self-actualization with self-transcendence. And he had separated the two and realized self-transcendence is a higher level. And it's part of what you were just talking about, which is I've reached my potential and now I want to give not just what I have, but who I am. I want to transcend. And part of transcendence is giving, right? So that's part of what you, I think, are motivated by, is to give. And your coach is absolutely right. Like, you want to be in a transcendent state by giving. And numerically, the biggest way that you can do that is for you to be wealthy yourself, financially and otherwise, so that you are able to do it in a bigger way, in a more impactful way for people.
I call it leading by example, right?
Yeah.
So it's leading by example, right? It's like, I think all the women that I work with should be able to create wealth for themselves and create security for themselves. So I have to do that too. I can't just say, like, you should aspire to be good things, but I'm just going to give away a free ebook every day and just hope someone takes my ebook, right? There's some not leading by example in that. And you see that in the coaching space. You see a lot of people with hangups about money and hangups about these issues. And then they try to coach people on hangups about money and hangups about issues. And it's really inauthentic.
I've seen the same thing. I'm really glad that you're calling that out. And I find it just disappointing.
It is disappointing.
Really disappointing. I'm a big believer in eating my own cooking. And I can only talk about all this stuff because I have gone through it all.
Eating my own cooking. I love that. Yes.
I don't dispense advice that I wouldn't follow, right? I mean, when people ask for advice, what they really want to know is, well, what would you do? You know my whole situation, and ultimately, what would you do? I can only honestly answer that question because I've probably been through it and back.
And that's a real moment. Like, if anybody's listening to this, because I hear sometimes people that are like, oh, I'm so good at giving advice, I just don't take my own advice. And if that is like, that can be like your goal this year, is to take the advice that you would give to someone else and live in that. You use the word wisdom. I use the word integrity, right? But that wisdom and integrity to be someone who takes your own advice, because otherwise it's like, it's not a lot of honesty around it, right? I was saying, like, you should build a business for yourself, but I shouldn't. You should take a nap, children, but I shouldn't. You should take care of yourself financially, but I shouldn't. Like, that's not as honest as we want. No. I hope that the world is. Yeah.
I think there's a couple things. I think we have to be aligned.
Yeah.
We have to be aligned with that, because whether we want to own it or think it, who's ever receiving our advice, they're going to feel it, and they're not going to get everything that they're meant to be getting out of it, because you don't have to give to begin with.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yes.
Right? Yes. I love that. So how do you go about changing a money script? Like, whichever one you want to choose, whichever one you think would be most congruent to the situation. But what are some steps you take to change?
Yeah. So our, money scripts, we didn't talk about money grams. Let me just say what that 1 second. So a money gram is what we heard growing up, and then flashpoints, right? Okay. So those are like the 3 things. And we can really uncover them just simply by taking a trip down memory lane. How was money growing up? What did we experience? What are our stories? What happened to us? And putting it on paper. There's a big thing in our brain when we actually sit and write things out. We make discoveries that we otherwise can't by talking or even by typing on a keyboard, and just see what's there. The next step is, because think about this for a second, Sarah, if you're set by array account statement landed in your mailbox today, and I'm not sure if you have children or not.
I do, yes. Uh-huh.
How old are your kids?
8 and 10, and I have a 17-year-old stepson.
Okay. So I want you to imagine that you get your SEP statement and you hand it over to your 8-year-old, and you say, hey, listen, could you do me a favor? Could you take a look at this and let me know what you think? Should I make any adjustments?
Yes.
So we have to understand that because we're not taught about the psychology of our money and where it comes from, we literally have accepted our past experiences as the truth, including what we believe. And our little inner 8-year-old might have made up a belief. And guess what? That 8-year-old's running our show. Yeah. So we just got to raise the awareness. And once we realize it's not just a matter of what we're saying to ourselves, which I always find it's sort of hard to figure out of 70,000 thoughts we have a day. There's about 50 thoughts a minute. What am I actually hearing in all of that noise? I find it really hard. But when I go down and I think about stories and I think about what I made them mean, that's how I'm able to lift out, oh, that's what I see that I believe about myself, or I did then. Now you can question it. So I'll give you an example.
Well, we're meaning-making creatures, right? Viktor Frankl pointed that out in his book, The Man's Search for Meaning. We're meaning-making creatures, and money is paper, right? And we make it mean we're good, bad, or not good enough, right?
That's right. Yes, well said. Absolutely. Or that we need to keep it secret.
Yeah, yes, that's the 4th one. Yes.
Yeah. No, you hit it. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So once, like, a client that I worked with, he grew up hearing money isn't important. Okay. This is probably a really good example for this audience, because what it reminds me of is women business owners who will say things like, I'm not in it for the money. Oh yes, it's a business. You have to be in it for the money, right? So you've got to find that balance of understanding that you have something within yourself that no one can get anywhere else. And there's an exchange for value that's called money. You would like access to what I have. Great. In order to have that, you're going to access that through a little exchange that we call money. That's all that it is, right? And when we start to own the emotional journey that we take people through in the respective work of anybody who's listening, we take people from one state of mind to another.
Yeah.
or we provide knowledge,
Mm-hmm.
that they didn't have, or any other experience, but we have something that they need.
Yeah.
That they don't have, that they
And
would
an upgraded version of themselves in many ways. You know, we're a little bit in the coaching space right now, and
Right.
you know, an upgraded version of life.
That's right.
Like, what would you pay for that at the grocery store?
Yeah.
Right? If you were shopping and it's like your, you know, potatoes or, you know, confidence, like how much would you pay for confidence? How much would you pay for,
Priceless.
being your own best problem solver? How much would you
Absolutely.
pay to have healthy relationships? How much would you pay not to be able to take advantage of again?
Yep. So just to circle back to hearing money isn't important.
Yeah.
So my client was 5 years into his first job,
Mm-hmm.
working, you know, 68, 100 hours a week, and he had $1,000 saved. That's it. And he was an investment banker, by the way. So he was making big bucks.
Right.
No judgment.
Yeah.
He was not very happy about that.
Yeah.
And he took a little trip down memory lane and reheard as an adult that moneygram, money isn't important, and realized that's how I'm acting. Money isn't important, because if it were, I wouldn't work 100 hours a week and only have $1,000 to show after 5 years worth of work. He then decided that was an easy one to switch, where he said, money isn't everything, but it is important. And when he shifted that belief as now a fully formed adult, he then acted accordingly, because it is a little strange to say we have a relationship with money. Even I say it and I'm like,
so important.
Object.
Yeah.
It's no signs of life, right? But our relationship with money needs the same thing that a real life relationship needs, which is time, attention, and care. So if we just think about it that way, we just need to pay attention, give it some time, and care about it. It doesn't mean that we need to become someone different. We can still be who we are, but we can have a more satisfying relationship and transcend those beliefs, because every single thing that we want in life, money is underwriting everything.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think about it as, I'm an extrovert, so I don't have a lot of issues like going into a crowded room, you know, and striking up a conversation, obviously. But I think about like the vulnerability of entering into a new relationship, and the vulnerability of entering into a relationship with money, actually looking, what's actually happening? What am I actually spending? What is actually coming in? What can I do? Right? Is that kind of what you're talking about? And that sense of vulnerability comes up for me, of just like, it can feel vulnerable to really take a look at what's really going on.
Yeah. I mean, the ultimate vulnerability is if you're going to openly discuss it. So you can start with the stage of you're privately taking a look, which can be a paralyzing step for many of us, right? The next level is if you want to give voice to it, which I do recommend, whether it's a friend, a coach, a therapist, whoever it is, because if you're storing anything that has a hold of you, one of the best ways to get rid of it is to speak it, and to not die in the process of speaking that truth, right? Which is what we're all afraid of. There's so much biology tied up in our money, right? As you talked about earlier, we're built to survive, right? The fMRI studies show that when we think about our money, when we think about investing our money, it is no different a biological reaction to a fight or flight response we have when our lives are physically under threat.
I agree.
That's how hard, wired this stuff is. We're talking about human survival is a core here. So that we need to let ourselves off the hook of the world that we live in is so much more complicated than our internal survival mechanisms, but they can be overcome.
Survive that happiness. Remember that brain piece we were talking about? That's exactly what it is. It's like your survival techniques are saying no, but happiness and the higher order on the top of the pyramid and self-actualization and self-enlightenment and all those things, they're all at the top and they're all through the field, right?
Yeah. And our biology, like everybody thinks our brain is here to help us to think. Our brain is literally literally.
If only, yes.
Well, I don't know if I always wonder when I hear these statistics of like, how do the scientists really know, right? So the statistics I know about are thoughts that we have set about, 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day. 80% of them are negative, and 95% of those negative thoughts are replayed on a replay loop every single day. Like, it's amazing we get out of bed in the morning when we're saying the same negative things to ourselves every single day. And so many of them.
And what you're describing is why I spend my money in coaching and self-improvement, right? And people are like, how do you get all this done? How do you do this? How do you do that? Well, because there's no way my thoughts are 80% negative a day. Now, they have been in the past, right? Yeah. But that's what, so when you think about going to the grocery store and thinking like, should I buy potatoes or should I buy, only how much more could I get accomplished in life if I only thought 50% negative thoughts instead of 80? A whole dang lot is the answer.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah. That's awesome. Michelle, thank you so much for coming on. And
mind meld. This was so fun.
It was so fun. Okay. And so I have to point out our outfits. I know the podcast people can't see, but if anybody's watching this on video, because it's like very interesting how often I like end up matching the guest, or we like match. And it's just like meant to be. So we have on both these cozy little black sweaters with our black hair. So I had bangs for years. I had your exact same bangs for a long time, but
quite a lot of
they're cute. They grew out during COVID because all the hairdressers were shut down in my area. And so I could not get my bangs trimmed.
Wow.
And so they grew out. That's
very nice on you.
Well, thank you. But yeah, I like the bangs too. Anyway, they would have been really matchy. Michelle, please tell people where they can find more about you and your work.
Yeah, the best place to find me is on my website, which is Michelle AB, it's 2 L's, michelleab.com. And there is something a little special there called the Success Formula Guide, which can walk people through looking at their past successes, because looking at your prior successes and mapping it on over to your money can be done. It's just transferable skills. And we don't always think about it that way.
My listeners are very familiar with that, especially the women I'm coaching. So that just aligns so much with them. And I just love it. I think you're talking my language, Michelle. You're talking my language.
I love it.
Oh, this is awesome. Michelle, thank you so much for coming on here to help us become toxic person proof.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me.